City Manager.
Andrew Copeland, Police Chief.
Shani Starr, City Council President.
Kyle Duran, City Councilor.
And excused until they arrive later is Councilor Dan Kohler. We will note on the record when he arrives. Okay, looks like the first item of business is our approval of minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries 2-0, excused Councilor Kohler. Okay, next up, it looks like we have a discussion on the 2025 departmental analysis and staffing overview. I will turn this over to our staff team, Chief and Mr. Wood.
I will be happy to begin the conversation and I can take it for any direction you would like to go from there. So I have it pulled up a couple different ways. I have it on the computer and a printout. So I'm not really sure which way I want to maybe pause for just a moment and welcome Dan Fuller to the room.
And just for the record, Councilor Kohler is here.
You would ask, you know.
Okay, well, let's get rolling on this thing. We have a bunch of content in this document. It ended up being around 40 pages long. The overall job of what I asked, well, a lot of questions from you folks from the first meeting, and then some questions internally, some questions from our executive leadership team. It all kind of culminated in this, and I will tell you this is still in a draft form, meaning I have to go through and there's some edits on some paragraphs, and I was even, as of this afternoon, rereading through this and making some changes, some of the language. Some of the things that won't change are some of the attachments. I'm not going to change somebody else's org chart. You saw those, and some job descriptions. There are a couple ones that we're in the middle of working on and modifying those job descriptions just to clean them up, but nothing substantive. Other than the lieutenant's job description, we have 3 lieutenants. We're trying to just make sure that all of those fall into the right category as to what they do in their duties. So, but we can get there later. I can tell you right now, starting on page 3, which is after the table of contents, it just kind of gives a brief department overview. We have 3 divisions: patrol, we have support, and then investigations. So you traditionally think of investigations as our detectives, and you are correct. Patrol is the folks that respond to the 911 calls, traditionally wear the patrol uniform and go out and respond to calls for service. And then our support services is property and evidence, and our records staff as well. What we did originally was we went into a comparative data overview, just talking about it within our comparables, and we also threw in Grants Pass and Redmond, which if you talk to our HR department, when it comes to comparables for contract negotiations and for actually wage and benefits and salaries, that they're not one of our comparables, but they're really close in size of population. And so I just threw those in there for your reference, but not but just so you know, when it comes to other things that the city uses, we don't use them. But there's the 8 that we do use are included, which are Lake Oswego, McMinnville, Albany, Oregon City, Tiger, Tualatin, Woodburn, and Canby.
Why don't we use Grants Pass and Redmond?
I think geographically speaking, it's just not close, would be my guess. I think that's what I was told in the past. It's just maybe different because it's so far away.
But most everything else in terms of like population and department size.
Well, I will tell you, that's the interesting part, is that population size is almost identical to ours. But agency size is completely different. So I threw those in. I found it interesting. I thought you might find it interesting as well. But you look at, I went sworn, and then non-sworn staff, which when you see the higher non-sworn staff, that's pretty indicative that they have their own call center. So a dispatch center, so they're going to require more non-sworn personnel to run that. McMinnville actually has 6 non-sworn staff, so if you want to make a note on, I've already made that change on the new document. But it's just you had this one from Friday, not updated as of today. And so their officers per 1,000, or actually still the same, so. But yeah, you can look across the board and I find, there's a couple tax rates that are missing, just the Google search and finding tax documents was not, this guy will find it for me. I just haven't asked him. I'm sure he knows off the top of his head, but, what's that?
What page?
3. Yep. Still on page 3, but if you look at officers per 1,000, in a lot of this is going to fall in whatever favor you want it to look at, but I'll tell you right now, looking at the numbers, we're pretty efficient in what we do and how many officers per 1,000 we have. We have 1.06 officers per 1,000. The average would be 1.265 per 1,000. If we were to have more of the average, if we were to go right down the middle of all of these, we would have 48 sworn. We have currently 41. And just as a reference, so you guys know, 2.5 of our 41 sworn are paid by the school district. So we actually, out of the city of Keizer money, pay for 38.5 sworn officers.
Chief, can you go back a little bit?
Sure.
I'm trying to make notes and follow along on that. The average officers per 1,000 where you said we're under. And is that using the average of our comparators that we're under, or what can you read?
Sure.
That for me?
Yeah, so the average of our comparators, if I did added up all of the ones in this graph here or in this table, is 1.265 officers per 1,000. 265, and it's at the bottom underneath. Average officers per 1,000 is 1.265. Well, 1.06. So I mean, if you did, I'm not great at math, but you do a little bit of math, it would end up, if we were to be the average, we'd end up with 48 sworn. And like I said before, we're at 41. So, which is fine. We're not asking for anything crazy. So that's just for your reference, a good talking point if you want to use it or not. On the next page, unless you have questions, page 4. Now this one's going to be, you're going to have some questions over this that I'm not going to be able to probably answer. But you'll look at a lot of different cities that have enacted a police fee or a public safety fee or a city operations fee. And so I just gave you the number to break down exactly within their general budget as to how much goes towards each department based off of this fee. I haven't done that yet. So you'll see, for example, Albany's at 14.82 monthly fee. Well, that's divvied up against fire, police, parks, and library and court. So how much goes to each one? I don't know the answer to that. So that's a question that our executive leadership team asked me last week to come back with the answer to. And I just have not had a chance to do that yet. So it's on the list of things to do. And some of these are just a public safety fee, meaning just for police. Some are public safety, meaning police and fire. Some are parks and fire, or parks and police. So you'll see kind of the gamut, and then we just need to do a better job of breaking those down. If you're interested in knowing how much are designated for each of these cities going directly towards law enforcement.
I would like to know that.
I would imagine you would.
And Councilor Fuller.
Thank you. Chair. Chief, who has a birthday at the end of this week,
Thank you.
non-sworn versus sworn. Some of these have a lot of non-sworn officers.
Yep. Non-sworn would be like our community service officer, would be our record staff. The major ones that have a lot of non-sworn would have their own dispatch center. So that would be very similar, like Salem, actually it's under fire now, under the fire department. The dispatch center is there, but Woodburn has their own dispatch center, Lake Oswego, Albany, I don't know about Oregon City. I don't, actually, I could look at their,
So if I look at Woodburn, it says 9.5 and we have 9, so. That dispatch center doesn't seem to make a lot of difference, something.
you're right, their dispatch centers for Woodburn exact, for specifically their dispatch centers outside of law enforcement, so they count that separate. That's a communications something or another, so. It's not Medcom, it's we're Willamette Valley Communication Center, there's some, so all of their non-sworn staff are assigned to the police department for Woodburn. Lake Oswego counts their dispatch center, and Albany counts their dispatch center, and under the non-sworn.
Mr. Wood, can you, for people that are listening, can you please break out our $10.90 monthly fee between parks and police?
Sure. The $10.90 fee, 4 of that is parks and $6.90 of that is police.
And that's every month.
That is correct, yes.
Under I know there's 23 different attachments to Civic Clerk, I apologize for that, I just can kind of lump them all together, but under the org charts, if you look. Like specifically at Albany or Lake Oswego, they'll show under the chief of police. They'll have different divisions, and one of those for specifically for Albany shows a communications supervisor, and then 11 communication specialists under them. So it's like 13 specifically assigned just to the dispatch center. Okay. Page 4, questions still that will be answered. Page 5 is last week, I just pulled up everybody's general budget, looked at what amount of money was allocated to the police department, specifically under the general budget. And this is the numbers that came up through, I mean, it would kind of be the same thing as the public records, what's on their website and available to the public. It just shows, how much their, I don't know what that is. So under Tualatin's budget, they have a total of 44 employees and their budget is 10,582,000. I just did math. Average cost per employee. I was curious for myself to see kind of where we fit under this whole thing, how much our average cost per employee is to include sworn and non-sworn that's allocated to the police department. So I just did simple math there and you can kind of read how it all turned out. We have verbally prided ourselves in being an efficient city, and I'm sure this would go for almost for parks or for, Mr. Wood's division as well. But we do a good job of maintaining funds and allocating funds and not going above and beyond what we actually need to get the job done. And my suspicions were somewhat right in the fact that I thought we did a pretty good job when it comes to our budget of making sure we don't have a lot of fat. As it turns out, we are on average, we're about $25,500 less per employee per year. So if you did the math, I mean, just over $1 million that if we were compared to our average or to the comparables, we would have another $1.2 million in our budget. We don't. So we live within our means and we operate efficiently. Moving on, we just really divided up each section from here on out and provided stories with each section, kind of broke the patrol division out, highlighted what they do, kind of the report or the calls they go to, talked about what a patrol sergeant is. In the newer version, you'll get all the faces of the patrol sergeants, so you know what they look like. We have 4 patrol sergeants running 4 different patrol teams. We try to have 6 patrol officers assigned to night shift, which is fairly new for us. We're just now getting there because our staffing levels are finally getting back up. Speaking of that, we do have 3 in the academy. one in FTEP and one, yet to be hired. So we're getting closer, I can tell you that. It's great. Which will then get us back to our 6 on nights, and then 5 on day shift. And that's pretty important for our guys for being able to respond to calls. Especially the night shift is more in progress than day shift. Not as many calls, but certainly more in progress than day shift. So but you can just, as you read through there, you can talk about when the shift starts, when it ends. And I can break that down into a bunch of different things, but we used to be 7 to 7. Home Depot case came along and basically said, hey, anything that you do, and it's not wrong, it's just, way business has been done for the history of Keizer PD. You get there, load your car, you go to briefing at 7, you start getting paid at 7. Home Depot came along, which was great. Kind of brought light to, hey, if you're going to do anything work related, even make coffee in the morning that's kind of work related, you need to get paid for it. So we added a buffer on both sides. You now load your car at 6:50. You get everything ready to go. You're at briefing at 7. You end your shift at briefing at 7 at night or 7 in the morning if you're not a day shift. You brief the oncoming shift, unload your car, go home. So you have 10 minutes either side. So anyways, so when you see that, you're like, why 7-8, why 6:50 to 7:10 p.m. And that's why. It talks about a patrol officer, primary duties, traffic officer, their primary duties. Then it goes into community service officer, which was not on there the first rendition. And I was like, why isn't that on there? Anyways, it is now. So that's on there. You're going to get into technological advancements, and this is what we currently use and how we operate and how we operate those certain technologies. Sorry, moving pretty quick. I'm on page 13 now, but we're now into like interagency coordination. Like, who do we talk to outside of Keizer PD? We have people assigned to the Salem. Well, we don't. We used to have someone assigned to the Salem Bomb Squad, but we have access to the Salem Bomb Squad. We have people on the Mid Valley Crash Team. We have our own canines as well as access to Salem's canines, Marion County's canines. I think we've even used Woodburn's before, and maybe Dallas. UAS is the unmanned aircrafts. We have access to, I think we have somewhere between 5 and 8 of those, and some of them are used for very specific different ones. We have one of the big ones, which is the FLIR, and so that's going to go up in the middle of the night when we're trying to track somebody and we need FLIR or someone who's hiding in the bushes. We're going to send that one up. It lasts a little bit longer. It's a much higher resolution from a higher up. We have some of the mini drones which can do crash reconstruction, and we have some that are like right in the middle that can actually help us through clearing houses. So, and on a vehicle stop, if we want to see who's in the car, we can fly in front of the car, get a look inside.
Chief, excuse me, when you say we have access to all of these other agencies' resources, they also have access to ours.
Oh, they do.
Correct? So I
Yes.
just want to make sure for people that are listening, it's give and take. They also
Right.
have access to our canines, our UAS, our.
Correct. We also additionally have 2 members on the Salem SWAT team. And so they frequently go, they train in Salem most of the time. It's a great resource for us when we need SWAT. They never say no. And there's 24 total individuals on the team, and we only provide 2. So when we need it, we get 22 of their folks. When they need us, they get 2. So it's a great return on investment. If you look at it that way, they obviously need the SWAT team more than we do. However, when we need it, and they're always there and willing to help, which is great. And sometimes we'll have a couple cases where we don't need a full SWAT team call out. We'll just rely on their expertise, and maybe they'll send 6 or 7 folks over, based on the operation that we need. So.
Counselor Fuller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now, Chief, when we do call upon other agencies to help us, then we do pay them. Is that correct?
Great question. No. We do not pay them and they do not pay us. So unless it's a FEMA exercise where we help out the fires up at Detroit, that's the only reimbursable type stuff. If we go help out we do some intergovernmental agreements between St. Paul Rodeo and Mount Angel through the Oktoberfest. When we help those events out, we get reimbursed for those. But if Salem Police has an active shooter and we send 4 guys over there, that's an agency assist. We don't ask for reimbursement. When, for example, on last Friday night, we had an incident here in town. Salem Police sent a bunch of people over, helped us lock everything down, get it to the point where our investigators are there, and then they left. They don't ask us, they don't bill us for that.
So can I just ask our questions, we know, I'm just, we're all family, just ask.
Okay. But when we send somebody out and it takes them 10 hours to do that, we're paying them the overtime.
Correct. Yeah, that'd be very similar to a fatal crash that happens out in the county where they ask one of our traffic officers, part of the crash team, to come do a reconstruction. If it's outside of his regularly scheduled shift, we do pay the overtime for that. Correct. Same for SWAT call outs. If it's outside the regularly scheduled shift, we will pay our guys overtime for that.
If you have to put that up on my machine.
You want the
Change was kind of like the long. I was just giving a hard time. You're using it.
I have it, my computer works.
Hopefully mine is some.
Okay. On page 14, we just detail out some calls to give you kind of an idea of what we deal with. We're gonna break those down just a little bit more. As to the end call time. And then how many officers it took to get there. Just to give you an idea of the resources involved in each of these calls.
Were those enough? Because when I look, like the situation, 3 individuals were attacking 1 individual. We sent 2 officers and a sergeant. Is that enough?
Probably all we had.
That's all we had.
That's all we had.
So is it enough? I mean, if we had 5 officers working that day, yes, 5 would have gone. When we get there and if the call sounds too much for the officers working, we will ask, hey, can you send us Marion County, whoever's closest, Marion County, OSP or Salem, and give them the response type that we would like. Code 1, which is just drive normal. Code 2, which is get here pretty fast. Code 3, lights and sirens. Usually no, it's code 0s means officer down or officer in trouble. So those aren't very often, but yeah, then we'll just let them know, hey, can you give us a code 2 response to this location? This is what we have. Send them the CAD, ask for an agency assist, and then Marion County or Salem show up as well. Our guys do a really good job, guys and gals, do a really good job of assessing a situation and what we would in the police world use verbal judo to control a scene, right? They can diffuse people, they can calm them down, they can separate people and do a really good job of multitasking multiple people at the same time to get compliance. So when it gets absolutely out of control is when then you'll hear like, give us code 3 response, give us some cover. And Salem does that for us as well. If they need something on the north end of their town, they'll ask for our help and we're happy to go help.
So one thing, when I look at these calls, Chief, the one thing that I don't see is, and this isn't a criticism or a question, but I'm looking at the response time.
Oh. We can get that
Because
on there. We have it.
I don't doubt that I mean, I've done the ride alongs and go fast, when there's an issue. And, but yet I look at the timing on, and the sequence of these calls. 10:10 PM, it was a fight. 10:48, another active fight. And then 11:10, gunshots and fleeing subjects. And so I just, within an hour, when I'm looking at this, it seems like pretty serious calls. When all we had on duty were 2 officers and a sergeant. And so I'm curious about like the response times, especially for the agencies assisting. And then the length
Sure.
of time that it takes to do all the things. So for example, Marion County Sheriff's assisted with the custody of the 3 juveniles from the prior call. But like, how long is that? That's what I'm, because I think that's what we don't think about, and
Sure.
I didn't until I did the ride along of the length of time that goes into one call. Because of all the things that go into that.
Yeah, we have access to all that. It's through our CAD system, so it's our CAD, which will have response times, and then when other agencies jump on our call,
How long it takes.
How long it takes them to get there.
We didn't have enough people, so we had to wait for somebody else.
and most of the time it's pretty accurate. It's even accurate more now than it was before because it geolocates where you're at, and as you get close to the incident, it automatically updates and shows that you're there. A lot of time before, you could show up on scene and not actually let anybody know that you're there for 10 minutes because you're like, oh shoot, I forgot to let dispatch know I'm actually here. So then you give the verbal, hey, I'm here, and then it shows on the CAD. So, but we can get all that for all of these.
I just think it
Sure.
helps tell the story. Thank you.
You bet.
And I think where I'm trying to get to and telling the full story is that last sentence that you have on the bottom of the report there on page 12. This incident series underscores the fragility of small agency staffing, where 3 simultaneous events can fully exhaust available resources.
100%. And sometimes 2 incidents fully exhaust all of our resources, and to the point where we have to ask for. I mean, on Friday night at 9 whatever time the shooting occurred, if we had another domestic related incident or an in progress anything, we're asking OSP. Salem was already helping us. We're asking OSP or Marion County to help us out for sure. And our sergeants do a good job of preloading that as well. Like, hey, we know we're all here. Dispatch, if an in progress something comes in, can you please ask the county sergeant if they can cover? So, and we've never been told no yet.
Yeah.
So, and we do the same thing. I mean, when it's a big event down at the Capitol, and Salem has OSP has all their resources down there. They'll call us the day before, like, hey, listen, can you cover our north end in progress calls? And so we'll do it. I mean, it's kind of how we operate. We have to help each other out. So we'll get answer some questions on that and get back to you on those. I think it'll be a little more detail for you. What I did on page 15 is it just went through some collateral duties. Well, like this is just gonna kind of give you what officers can do in addition to their normal patrol, normal detective, normal investigative duties on top of that. So things are required by DPSST are use of force hours. You have to have 24 hours. It's every 3 years, so 8 hours a year of firearms defensive tactics, something that would equate to a use of force. So we have instructors in all of these. We have firearms instructors. We currently have 4. We have 3 defensive tactics instructors. We have taser instructors, first aid, CPR, tactical medicine, emergency vehicle operations, and baton and 40 millimeter. 40 millimeter is that less lethal, kind of that baton round projectile. In addition to that, we have drone operators, we have field training officers, canine officers, peer support members, team members, which are you have to go through a bit of training. We have a police services liaison, which is really just means you're the go-between between us and dispatch. We have a reserve coordinator, traffic safety coordinator. I mean, you can read them all, but DRE, crash, parade. I mean, so Martin Powell is our parade coordinator for now. He does both parades a year. We have field sobriety, the SFST's field sobriety instructor, radar, lidar, and toxilizer and traffic radar director. So we have all these different things that we ask our officers to do in addition to their normal duties.
Is that normal?
It is. Yeah, there are, I mean, you'll look at maybe some org charts where they'll have an administrative sergeant, which will kind of oversee all of these. Right now, it's split up between Lieutenant Hine and Lieutenant Winning to kind of oversee all of these different functions. And I guess probably Lieutenant Nelson as well. So then we break it down into traffic, and we can kind of do this too if you would like, is we have your typical call and response types for traffic. If you want more detail there, we're happy to provide it. We have your typical domestic burglary, a lewd, a burg that turns into a restraining order, attempted burglary. We're just trying to paint a picture of the type of calls that we can go to. These one didn't give dates and times and case numbers, which we could certainly find them and give the same answers to the questions you asked before. Like how many officers, what was the response time? And that we just need to print the CAD and have that information available to you. Moving on to page 8. I don't know what page this is. 19. There's a picture at the bottom of mine. 19, for me anyways, the Criminal Investigations Division, which is led by Lieutenant Nelson. It breaks out kind of exactly what type of crimes they investigate or are assigned. They're all of our major felony crimes, and they'll get some misdemeanor crimes in there, but we try not to bog down the unit with, and this is going to sound, with the lesser crimes, because there's so many of the bigger crimes that they need to deal with. They take way more investigating and time and effort, and we want to make sure those are lock solid cases.
So Chief, I know this isn't TV and you don't solve all the crimes in a half hour or an hour, but how many cases typically is this team working on at the same time?
That's a great question. Depends on the week, but they typically, each one is assigned somewhere between 15 and 25 cases at a time, each detective. So as they clear those cases off, some of them are easier than others, and so it only take maybe a couple, I mean, at minimum a day, maybe 2 days to clear a case off. Some of the other ones, if you're getting to your sexual assaults, your burglaries, some of your major domestic related calls, which are going to require a lot of follow-up with Center for Open Safety and some other places to make sure that the victim falls in the right place.
But, I mean, we've heard of the sex trafficking and on all the other cases that they were, that takes a long time.
It does. I mean, you'll look at, well, I can't quite quantify how many hours, but if you look at this incident from Friday night, and this is a good example of allocating resources within a small agency such as ours, every investigator is working that case, and they worked it till 3 o'clock in the morning on Friday, all day Saturday, almost all day Sunday, back at it on Monday, and they'll be working that case for a week and a half. And so you quantify all those hours, it's hundreds of hours assigned to a case. And then all those other cases, all the, the child abuse cases, the domestic based violence cases, the burglaries, those kind of cases that we should be following up on get pushed pause for the higher profile cases at the time. So their caseload just gets bigger and bigger. So yes, it's a lot. We ask them to do a lot, and we train them really well to do many different things within that unit. So, and I listed them out. I don't need to, I mean, you can, let's see what page is it. On pages 21 through 23, 20, 21, and 22, really. It talks about all the things that we ask our investigators to be proficient in. So you'll see, there's just so many different things and so much technology available to us. We have one detective, that's our forensic detective. We send him to schools so that you can take a computer and analyze everything on that computer. You can take your cell phone and analyze everything that's on your cell phone. You and I just can't do that. Like, we're not, it takes a required school and a skill set and the technology to do that. And so we equip these investigators with the skills to do that, and then we ask them to please not, go back to patrol right away, but stay in investigations for quite a while so we can use your skill set.
Chief, what is an industry average for caseloads for detectives?
That's yeah. So if you look at actually Lieutenant Nelson did a decent job. So if you're a Berg investigation, a complex Berg investigation is going to be between 40 and 100 hours for one officer or one detective to look at. If you do a pretty intensive, complex sex offense case, it's going to be 100 to 300 hours. And a lot of that will be interviews and hours of interviews with multiple people, and then coming back and typing that up in a narrative form to get it to the district attorney's office. It takes a lot of time as well.
What's the average caseload? So like our and industry standards. So for example, each of our detectives carries 15 to 25 cases. That's not a lot of hours a week. If you have 25 cases, that's 1 point, and I'm not, math isn't my strong suit either, but
That's not a lot of hours per
it's
case.
1.25, maybe 1.5 hours per case. And so what if you're working a 40-hour week? So what is the industry standard in terms of a caseload? Do we have those?
That is a great question. I don't know the answer to that. I know that we had an individual leave for the Department of Justice and become an investigator over Department of Justice, and he's assigned typically 2 or 3 cases at a time.
I think that if that standard exists somewhere would be really helpful for us. So for example, like with kind of my world, and the CASA world, we have a standard that you have 30 volunteers per staff member or 40 cases. So because some volunteers carry, 2 cases, right? So there's a standard and like a best practice of what a caseload looks like.
I'll find out.
And then, the 2 detectives that are paid for by Salem Keizer School District,
Yes.
those. For people that are listening, they might pay us for that, but they are not full-time in Keizer.
No.
They work all of the schools in Salem Keizer School District, correct?
That is correct.
So we're counting them in are we counting them in our sworn numbers?
We are.
But they're not full-time for Keizer, so I don't know that that's a fair calculation for us to, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but including, I mean, yes, they're part of our team. I don't want to come off that they're not part of our team, but when we're looking at staffing ratios, if they're not working full-time in Keizer for Keizer cases.
They're not, and you'll look at there's 2, the very similar positions, but one is designated as specifically threat assessment for the entire district. And so, which happens to be Detective Anderson, and she will be in meetings all day long that has nothing to do with anything Keizer related. Every once in a while, we'll get a kid that does live in Keizer that falls under that threat matrix that gets staffed, and she gets to talk about a student that attends a Keizer school, but it's not designated for Keizer schools or for us to be only Keizer oriented. Detective Warledge, who works under the same kind of unit, he will work felony cases at McNary. So we'll get, if there's a felony case that comes in McNary, we'll assign it to him. And that's per our contract with the school district. So we will get a little bit more, I don't want to say usefulness out of that position, but at the same time, if there's a fight or a theft or something that doesn't reach that criteria, it's going to go to our patrol unit. It won't reach his. And they're trying, and they're so busy. I will tell you, they do a phenomenal job. The threat assessment model in Marion County is amazing. They do phenomenal work. And our folks are part of this model and this team that do really good work, but they're busy. They're busy. And so pulling them off of these really important threat assessments and evaluating these students that are a threat to the entire community to come even bring them back to work, a Keizer case is difficult. So they pay, I mean, they do pay, thankfully, they do fund us 100% plus car and overtime. So, but still, you're right, that doesn't help us when we're trying to say how many officers do we have that are available to Keizer PD and to the Keizer community. Yeah, those two really are a limited resource for us.
So are they, on those initial charts, I know you called it out in one of them, on page 3. You said 2.5 are paid by Salem Keizer. Who's the 0.5?
It's the sergeant in charge of the
Yeah.
2 investigators.
But the sergeant is available.
Correct. And they give him the 0.5 because he'll attend some meetings and he also has to approve all of their reports that they write. And so he does get tied up. It's nice to give us half, and I don't know if it's exactly half, but we also, that sergeant also takes all of the cross reports that comes in, which is the 307s reports from DHS, and evaluates and goes through those. And those are 100 plus a month.
Plus a month. So the 41 sworn includes the 2.5.
It does.
So there might be, is there wisdom in taking that 2.5 out because they're not, I mean, putting them in their own
Sure.
column because they're not directly tied to Keizer?
We certainly could. I mean, it would benefit in I didn't want to make it look like, hey, we not actually paying for them. I'm not going to include it to make it look like we're even less. Because then that would drop us down to less than, it would put us less than 1 officer per 1,000, which is.
Really kind of what we are.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be really, really close. It'd be like point, I think it didn't matter. It's like point, oh yeah, it's 0.998. Yeah.
Without them.
So.
But I think it tells us if they're not responding to our Keizer calls.
We could, I mean, we certainly could create a
different column or
Yeah.
another column. I don't want to take them out completely, but I want to make sure that the data is
Yeah.
accurate.
Yeah.
Thank you.
While we're talking about data, is it possible to use AI for some of the reports, or how's that, is that something possible in the future?
In the future, possible. We just had this conversation a week and a half ago with our district attorney's office, and they are not in favor. I think there's a place for it somewhere in the future. Body cams will translate entire conversations and put it on a piece of paper for you. Our district attorney is very much against that and has asked us not to do that for now. I don't know if that'll change in the future, but you know, if they're going to approve our reports and try our cases, we kind of follow their lead. So they're not a fan of that at this point. And there's some other ways in which we can use AI. It's interesting because you can get a transcript and have it translated, but you still have to put an I and a pen on every word. So it does help. It's a little easier when you're transcribing things. We can also send it off to a company to transcribe the entire thing verbatim for us. We do that with some interviews when it comes to larger cases. But yeah, AI is on the verge of being amazing, but not yet.
It sounds like that we spend a lot of time putting information on a piece of paper that is never used.
Yes, that is true. I don't know the way around that. Are you talking about like police reports? Yeah, there's no way around that yet. We still spend hours on the keyboard typing away. We could have an entire interview that's on our camera system. And you can capture every facial expression, and there's a couple things that, you know, the camera angle won't catch, but the entire conversation, we're typing that conversation up.
Thank you.
Yep. So investigation unit, there's quite a bit going on there. We have 5 current investigators assigned to that unit, not including our school, the detective assigned to the school staff. Going through pages 23 through. Oh, sure, go ahead.
Um, the officer or the detective assigned to the cross reports and the 307 pieces. Again, probably, I'm assuming participates in that, MPT team that isn't just related to Keizer.
That's correct. So we have, actually, the Sergeant Vedison reviews all the 307, the DHS cross reports that come in through DHS, and then we'll assign those cases if they need to be assigned. They'll spend all the time vetting them and researching them to make sure either one, it's already been handled or needs to be handled currently. And those will typically go to investigator. If it's an immediate response, it'll go to patrol. And then we do have Detective Lathrop, who's assigned to our multidisciplinary team. And so, yeah, and you'll see, I mean, it lists out between pages 23 and almost 30, 29, like what each investigator within that unit is asked to do and with their collateral duties within that specific unit. And there's a lot. I mean, you'll see there's quite a bit that they do. It's, and not everything is done every week. So sometimes it's once a month. Sometimes these things happen once every 3 months. But this is the skill set that we required them to be back in that unit and the training they have to go to be able to accomplish some of these functions. Yeah, so if you read through those, have any follow-up, I mean, it's a lot. We tried to spell everything out and not use acronyms. But it's a lot of training. It's hours and hours of training that we invest into these investigators to get them up to speed and operating in full capacity. We do ask our investigators most of the time to spend at least 4 years back in the unit. Get them a couple of years to get trained and then a couple of years, but they're actually worth something to us.
So the part-time officers, is that what we call them, that are here, that it's sworn officers then?
Which one of the
How is it that he's got regular job and he comes in and he works certain hours?
oh, are you,
Reserves.
oh, reserves? Are you talking about reserves? Yeah, so we have 2 current reserves and actually 2 people interested in becoming reserves, which is first in 2 years, which is nice. They're free for us. We pay for their uniforms, let them drive our cars, but they are completely free.
So we're not paying them.
We are not paying them at all. The only time that they have hinted at wanting to get reimbursed is if they work like Oktoberfest or St. Paul Rodeo and they're reimbursed by some other agency for their time, but not by us.
Thank you.
So investigative unit is quite a bit. They're the ones who actually got our, some of our parks cameras and LPRs up and running. So that's kind of assigned to them as well to keep and maintain those. On page 30, we move into our support division. And Lieutenant Wenning and Paula Collins is supervisor. And that's this is where, and there's more data to come when it comes to outside agencies calls for service. We have lots of requests out and are waiting on agencies to get back to us. We're waiting on some additional NIBR stuff, which is the National Incident, what does it stand for? Report writing system. So basically any crime that occurs goes into NIBRs. So a theft will be going to NIBRs and a homicide will go into NIBRs. That'll be the crime rate within your city. So that's what that is. And that's, we're waiting on some of that information to come back from OSPs pulling some of those numbers for us. And some other stuff. So, and unfortunately, Paula was sick today, or she might have some of that stuff for tonight. Bummer. But this will give you kind of just a glimpse of, well, actually I asked, I don't remember if you guys asked or I asked, just what our records staff does. They would give you a glimpse of what they actually do. The folks that are sitting up at the front counter, the ones that are sitting there, that when you walk into the front counter, what do you expect and who are you going to encounter first? So this is all of our public or police support specialists. We have 3 of them, and Paul being the supervisor, and then we have 2 property and evidence employees that maintain our entire property and evidence chain of command, enter evidence. And they're listed on 33 and 34 as what their duties are. And there's a few things that'll get the Department of Justice super interested in a police department and want to have some oversight. One is the mishandling of property and evidence room, right? You start getting things that are missing. That's a bad thing. And then excessive use of force. Those are 2 things, and bias complaints. So those are, I guess, three things that get Department of Justice super interested in your department and whether or not you're doing things right. So we've had no issues with any of those, thankfully, to the point where they want to come hang out with us. So our property and evidence folks do a phenomenal job of doing audits and what I'm looking for, inventory, just doing inventory checks yearly. So, and we do random audits to make sure as required by policy and then also accreditation. It'll give you a couple numbers that they deal with, which is quite a bit. When it comes to actual evidence between physical and digital evidence, we're looking at, I mean, the numbers so far. As of 10/25. Anyways, it's on page 35. There's a lot. I mean, it's like 41,000 different pieces of evidence coming in. A lot of those are digital evidence or videos because we have, and just body cameras are knocking on the door. We're actually doing a training right now as we speak. The officers are in there getting trained on how to use body cameras and how to upload them and where to store them and best practice for it. So those are knocking on the door, and which will create more evidence for our property and evidence folks.
So what about storage of evidence? Where are we with that at this point?
We're fine for what we have now because everything's going to be cloud based. Our Motorola cameras are cloud based, so we don't have to actually hold that data on site. Otherwise, it would be
physical evidence.
We're doing fine. They do actually a really good job of trying when they can to dispose of evidence that the district attorneys have said, yeah, we no longer need that as part of the case. You can now destroy that. So they'll collect all that stuff yearly and then make it. Well, it used to be a run up to Brooks to dispose of that. Now it's Spokane. So that's the only place they can dispose of property and firearms and drugs. Firearms, I guess you could do somewhere else, but that's where drugs is and some of the other property up in Spokane now. So it's too bad.
That's my tomorrow meeting, it's the garbage meeting.
I love it. I asked Lieutenant Winnie to kind of give an overview of vehicles and the years, just so we can see a cost comparative from the last several years, and if equipment costs of vehicles are going up as to drive the reason why our budget needs to go up. I mean, it's pretty, you could guess that vehicles have gone up if you've ever bought one recently. But we put that together for us. We gave it 20. Started in 21, 22, and then went through this year, 25, 26. So just the costs associated with putting and outfitting a patrol vehicle. An administrative vehicle, and then kind of the builds that add on to a patrol car. And then he went into the reason why we rotate patrol cars when we do. And also our, I guess our non-patrol cars would be more administrative cars, detective cars. And for the administration, kind of spells out those cycles and why. What we found is we used to lease cars on a 3-year lease through Ford. Or was it Dodge? It was Dodge when they had the Chargers. And then Dodge quit that program. They're like, nope, no more leases. It's not making us any money. So now you have to buy your cars. And we found about a 4-year cycle on patrol cars ends up being a 5-year cycle because it takes so long for Wireworks to outfit a car. So we try to keep it on a 4-year cycle, but once we in Wireworks, love them, they do a great job, but they won't actually put a car into production until you have a car in hand. So we order a car in July after the budget's approved. We order a car in July or August. It takes 3 to 6 months to get the car in. We get the car in our back lot. We now tell Wireworks, hey, we physically have the car. Can we get into your shop? Great. Now they put us on a tickler and a timer and a schedule for 3 months out. And then they outfit our car 3 months later. So that's 9 months it takes to get a car somewhat outfitted. We get it back, but then we have to program radios, equip the car with the stuff that we provide for it. So that's probably another couple weeks. So you're really looking at 10 months. From what I've seen the last couple cars, it takes from the time that you actually are approved to buy the car, you put the purchase order in, get the car and get it outfitted, ready to go on the road. So it just takes a while. It's like getting a trained officer. It takes about 10 months. So starting at the same time, they can be useful to us in 10 months. Went through gas prices, and those are kind of up and down over the last couple of years. I saw it. What was it at Fred Meyer today? Gas was like $3.60 for regular. I was like, well, maybe it's going to go down. I have no idea. And then
Station down the street.
wow, I'm driving down that. We kind of wrapped it up with just, maybe a recommendation if you guys ever ask, like, well, what would you want? I mean, if you were to get a wish list of things that you would really want, what would that look like for the PD? And I understand that we're in a tough spot right now. Our general fund funds the police department. Our general fund only has so much money. Our tax rates are only so high. And we can only do so much there. So that's why at the end of the day, here's my ask. Like, keep us staffed where we're at now. Right? That's the minimum. Like, we're smiles, happy, we'll do our job, we'll be happy. We're getting all these folks back on now. That's taken a long time to get them hired. But we're there. We get one more and then we're like locked and loaded. People are happy. We're singing songs and dancing and getting police work done. And, already our ticket revenues are going back up. And so great, keep us staffed. If you're like, hey, but what would you actually want? I would love to have 6 cops on every shift, 6 patrol cops on every shift with a minimum staffing of 4. That means no less than 4 cops working the streets of Keizer at all times.
Is that what we have now?
We have 3. Minimum is 3. So we'll have, I won't say every day, but it's not irregular to have 3 cops working a night shift or working on a Saturday and Sunday during the day shift.
So we have 3 in your ask.
Ask us for 1 more. Yep. I mean, in perfect world, yeah, give me all the money in the world, then I'll put more on there. But the reality is I don't want 6 cops working the road, spinning circles around each other, wondering what to do. I should say 8 cops, right? You have 8 cops in the city of Keizer in 7 square miles, you're gonna see a police car every 30 seconds, and you wonder, what in the world are they doing? And I don't want them, pulling over every car that moves, and then you're having, So, I think if we had 6 patrol officers working at a time, and 1 sergeant, 5 officers. For both day shift and night shift, that would be amazing. Right now, we have 6 on our org chart allocated to night shift. We don't have them quite there yet, but we will close soon. And then traffic would be great to have 3 traffic officers. We have 2. Miranda and Powell are current traffic officers, and Miranda's recently back to the motor as of this day.
Yesterday.
Yeah, yeah, not very long ago. And then one more. Actually, this number needs to be changed for the CID. I'd love to have 6 detectives instead of 5. But that would include, take out your school resource folks, and then just give me another investigator. We have the same number of investigators now as we had in like 97. And so like 1997 or 2002 or something like that. I mean, it's been 20 plus years, and we have the same number of investigators.
What's our key, like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll get to that.
Yes. And then potentially 1 more support staff would be ideal. And I may come begging for that sooner than later once body cameras are up and running. I don't know the answer to that yet. That's a big unknown. And I think you asked me that last time. Are we going to need another person to help maintain this body camera evidence and different? I don't know. I mean, it may be very manageable. It may be so easy that our officers can do it. And then our evidence folks just send a link to the DA's office and it's up in the cloud. It might be very easy. It might not be. That's kind of yet to be determined. So we don't know yet. We'll find out next year.
Community service office.
We have 2 community service officers, and I think that's gonna be amazing for us. We have 1 currently. The other one is almost done with backgrounds. Kind of paused, our investigators did the background, so it kind of got paused for a second. Till we can we can catch a breath of fresh air and then finish that up. Should be done shortly. So community service officer is gonna take a huge load off of our patrol officers working day shift. And also for the community and our community response unit, so. We think, by the time we have 2, it should be amazing.
So maybe you covered this before I. We have access to Oregon criminal database. Do we also have regional and national database authorization? When we use that, is it helpful?
Yes. Yeah, so we have access, especially through our task force folks. We actually had, I think it was the special agent in charge of the FBI in our office today, trying to figure out how he can help us with some of our cases. But with those collaborations and those resources, we have access to a lot of different databases. And a lot of them are at our fingertips anyways. So.
Cause I remember a few years back, you were doing background checks for Little League and that kind of stuff. But at that point, you were only accessing Oregon's criminal database. Has that changed?
We have access to the National Crime Incident Database as well.
Thank you.
So, just a couple of, listen, just maybe 3 more. Can we add in, when we, never mind, it's right there. I guess my question, on the new version, will like Keizer and Tualatin have the tax rate?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, all those blanks on that front page will be
Okay,
filled in.
perfect. I would love to know and understand why we're not using Grant Tax and Redmond as a comparable. And if it's literally just because that's of geographic location, I'm not sure I think it would be helpful for us to use them as comparators for this work because they're so close in population and so forth. So I would just be curious what the
Other tax rates go. Well, but the other part too, when you talk about Grants Pass and Redmond, they don't have interagency agreements the same way that we do. Is that correct?
I would say that they probably do in the sense that Deschutes County has a SWAT team and Redmond has members on it in that sense, and then they'll Deschutes County will help cover them if they need something or Redmond will go. Bend is a little bit of a stretch, but and Bend is pretty self-sufficient. They have a lot of officers there.
But like Grants Pass, they don't have a city right next to them.
No,
That they can, I mean, they may have some county officers, but they don't have access to the city officers.
no, yeah, their help is OSP and Josephine County, and that's it. They don't have. And you probably don't want, I wouldn't want Merlin cops or, some other, but I don't think Merlin has a police
You
department.
don't think the cops in Drain would,
No. Yes,
But I would just, I think it's population wise, and so
Sure.
it's a good comparator.
I'll ask HR
Yeah, they're
director.
right.
He'll know the reason, and a lot of these comparables came back to Michelle as well. I know that we inherited a lot of these from her. So he may have a great answer, which I'm sure he does. So I'll find out.
I also think for this comparison, we can pick whatever cities we want to. For the bargaining process, there's specific qualifications that they have to follow, and it's a certain number bigger than and smaller. And probably, I think the chief is right, we didn't pick those because they're geographically a little bit different. And you're gonna get a different salary scale there than you would probably see in the area that we're at. One of the things that I think task force needs to keep in mind is with Keizer, yeah, we're a bedroom community. So we don't have certain crimes, but we're also a very retail heavy community that has retail issues. Plus, we're along the I-5 corridor, so we have the issues that a lot of the bigger cities have that you'll see just passing through our city as well. So the number of police officers, sure, we could survive with fewer. It's probably, given the types of crimes that we have, probably not on the wise side.
Which leads me to my final question. Call data.
Yep. So Paula has all of that so close, ready to go, and she has all of our call data as well as our comparables and how many calls for service. And this is the data that she's like, I'm so close to getting this ready. We're at right around 21,000 calls per service. I know I looked at a number, Lake Oswego is around 29, and I thought, well, is that including, because they have their own dispatch center, is that including 911 calls to fire and EMS as well? So that's a question I had yesterday for her, so she's looking into that. Oregon State Police, I said, they're working on a bunch of stuff for NIBRs for us. We have some of those things already, but it's not clean. And we don't want to tell the wrong story, but we're really close on all of our comparables, how many calls for service they go to in comparison to us. And then we can break that out by how many calls per officer each one goes to. And then I don't know how much farther we can break that down, but if we can break it down farther, like time of call, or how many report calls versus non-criminal cases, we can try to do that too. But
Because your comments about we have the same number your comments about having the same number of investigators now than as we did in 2002. Wow. And that's 30 years.
I was wondering, with that, is our call volume or our caseload volume up? Should be up because Keizer Station is now quite a bit larger, and we see a lot of calls come from that, so I could see that making a huge difference in caseload.
Yeah.
So I would be very interested just to see, as Keizer Station ramped up, build out, what would our caseload do?
sure.
And that, if we don't have any more people than we did back then, we're obviously managing things pretty tight. And we need to take that into consideration as the finishes been built out, we got a lot more. Real estate there that's gonna be built up in the next 5 years, so.
Yeah.
We need to be prepared for that.
100%.
Yeah, we can look back. I mean, I know 2007 is when we started around there, and then, really going,
2012.
yeah, probably 2012. So we can see if we can find data back there. I know that that's like 3 report writing systems ago. And so we might be able to pull like criminal cases. Unless we have it saved somewhere on our internal drive for call load, we won't be able to access some of that stuff. But maybe we do. I don't know. We'll find
Or
out.
you just get me, for
Sure.
what?
Yeah.
What was the?
Yeah.
How was the?
Well, I can tell you how the officers that have worked back in 2012 to now feel. We're like, man, we're busier now than we ever have been. But and it may not be call load specifically, but we're asking them to solve more problems and to spend more time dealing with these issues. Because we've gone to this problem-oriented policing model over the last several years where it's like, hey, don't just go there and put a Band-Aid on something, go there and try and fix it. And so really, sometimes maybe the call load doesn't go up, but we don't go back to that same place 30 times because we solve that problem. And that's kind of the goal of what we, problem-oriented policing is to reduce the amount of calls you go to, and we've done a good job of that. But it doesn't help us when it comes to, quantifying numbers. Or really, and it's hard to say how much time you spend on those things unless you keep track of every hour. So, but we'll try to create a narrative there. Paint a picture for you.
Yeah, I mean, we're stuck as a city.
Yeah.
How much we can, our tax rate is there.
Yep.
We don't really have any, so we need to find creative ways to make sure that if we need it, we find creative ways to show the need, if we need to ask for more money in a different way. I just want to make sure we can quantify all of the questions that are gonna come up.
Yeah.
If we do indeed have to ask for more money.
Sure.
Taxpayer. It's easy.
Absolutely.
That brings up a question that I've got here, but Mr. Wood question. Several of the other areas, cities and such that I researched, they have a bond that they do. Like maybe 4 or 6 year bond or whatever it is, kind of like the fire department does, fire district does, sorry.
Is it a bond or a levy?
I don't know, theirs is a bond, but I'm wondering, is that something that eventually we ought to consider?
Well, by state law, for an operating levy, we can have 5 years, up to 5 years. So the challenge with that is every 5 years, you're kind of hitting the reset button as far as your level of staffing. Is it a mechanism we should look at? Absolutely. I think it's something to consider. It does give employees a little bit of hesitancy when people know their position is funded by a levy. They're less likely to come work for you than somewhere else where it's permanent funding. So that could present a challenge as far as recruitment goes. The cost of operating the levy is also a lot higher than, say, the fee system that we currently have. So there's costs of promoting the levy every 5 years, putting it on the ballot, doing the marketing, that kind of thing that go along with that as well. So I think when the time comes, we do need to sit down and do a pros and cons of the different funding mechanisms that are available.
I'd be in trouble.
And then, is there a big difference on who ends up paying that? So it's property tax owners that end up paying that instead of the renter, for example, is paying.
That is correct, yes. From a levy or a bond, that would hit your property tax statement.
That was my question. If we had that, definite detail of who pays, would be good to know. So to me, the fee is definitely, sounds like it's easier to administer, easier to plan, and it's than a voluntary levy, and it's, you don't have to worry about them every 5 years. So I would And we're already doing the fee. And, you know, I would say, you know, if we have to increase that and that goes to the. You know, we do decide to send that to the voter. Having those questions answered
Mhm.
in detail would, you know, would be good. So that we can say, you know, we've gone through this, this is the right way to do it. We're just gonna increase this because it makes the most sense, so. I definitely wanna make sure we have that information.
Absolutely.
So two questions. One, have we indexed our fee increase in the past? Because I know at some point it was talked about that it was paying for a certain number of positions. But I don't know if we have indexed that increase, like we talked about indexing other increases in the budget. So that would be information, I think, looking at how we've done that in the past. And then maybe some projections if we indexed it go forward. The second one is, Counselor Duran brought it up, and I think we all know it to be true, that our officers spend an insane amount of time on retail crime, retail theft crime. Are there other municipalities that have an alternate way of revenue, gathering revenue from the people, from, I shouldn't say people, from the businesses that use our services the most? So the Lowe's, the Ultas, the Targets, the Marshalls, the, right? Is there a model out there, or are there other models out there of how other municipalities are dealing with that and paying for it? Because asking Target to pay the same amount on a water bill as a homeowner is crazy to me. So
Very
what does
good,
that look
very
like
good
to make
comment. We were just talking about that actually this morning at our executive leadership team meeting. We do have, I haven't seen a lot of good tiered structures yet. But I think that the fee process is still relatively new for a lot of cities, so they're still probably working through some of these. We were on the early side of adoption as far as a fee goes. So I think there probably is some refinement that needs to be done. I do have an analysis based off of using the stormwater model where it's impervious surface. So someone like a Lowe's is much bigger than a household. Have some information that I'll be able to share at our next time we get together or at the city council meeting where we're considering the fee. And I think there are some mechanisms that we could do to try to allocate the cost of the police resources to the folks that are using it the most.
And Chief, do we have an idea, like a rough, like if we know how many hours we're spending at Target, Lowe's, Ulta, like Keizer Station, we'll just say that. For whatever calls are out there, do we have an idea of the hours and then that can translate into a cost?
I can find out how many calls per service and based on those calls, kind of the average time we spend on those calls.
Yeah.
Can certainly do that. That's
And then
no
an average
problem.
cost.
And then the cost of how much it's costing us to. Yeah, it's just an hourly rate at that point, so then I'll just do the average officer per.
Like an average, like, I don't know. My cold medicine for right now, so sorry. Sound like a congested okay. How, so then. It's one thing for us to respond to a call there, but then if it gets transferred over to our investigations division, right? Then there's a whole nother like side of the work that I don't know that we're thinking about. And so that's what I'm really interested in that as well, the time that goes into that. It's, I mean, when I did my ride along, and I think we were out there trying to, I don't know, multiple times in the different ride-alongs, but I don't think that that's where the work ended. It was just responding to the calls. They didn't get transferred over to the investigation, so there's a whole nother cost.
Yeah, we can do we can look at the ones that require follow-up. I mean, we've had a couple major incidents up there. Clearly over the last couple, several years, which required significant resources.
Deaths, murders.
Yeah, the murders that happened up there.
Just think that that's important when
Sure.
we're trying to tell the story and determine what is the revenue model look like to pay for what we need.
Yeah, not only Keizer Station, I mean, that's a big one to.
Yeah,
pick
just
on,
start with, yeah.
But also, are there other businesses, bars, things like that, that take, I don't know if there is, but are there other businesses that take a excessive amount of resources over other businesses? I mean, yeah, you guys are in my business an awful lot, but it's not because of me. It's because of things going on around me that I get asked, to see my videos.
Right.
But I know for a fact that those businesses, really, it isn't because of those businesses that they have a lot of incidents, but they attract.
Sure.
I mean, the pizza parlor across the street was burglarized, I don't know, in the last few years, 5 or 6 times. Something ridiculous like that, and then the bar was robbed, are there specific businesses that take resources that we should be?
Sure.
looking at?
We can look at the number of calls per location, give you the higher ones.
Yeah, I think it would be good, not just on the Keizer Station, but if there's other ones that.
I have a few in
see
mind
a
already.
big spike, we should be interested in that.
Sure.
The warehouse facilities.
Yeah. Grocery stores and,
Safeway might be one.
Interesting.
but those are steps.
Yep, correct. Extracurricular activities in the parking lot. as well.
Mr. Wood, one last question. I noticed in the report that we insure our police vehicles for a replacement value of $90,000. At least that's what it said in the report. So my question is that just the vehicle, or is that everything else that's in it? And number two, if we insure it for a replacement of 90,000, didn't we just pass a supplemental budget recently and it wasn't to replace it at 90,000? So can you explain that?
I'll have to look into that one. Replacement value doesn't sound right to me as far as what we're insuring them for, because we've never received replacement value since I've been here.
Yeah, it's the little double asterisk at the bottom of page 36.
Right, I'll double check that.
In the fine print. All right, is there anything else that from any of us that we would like to ask before we have our next meeting? Counselor Fuller?
Thank you. I'd like a printed copy next time, or a way to get to, I have no idea how you got to that report on the computer. I was very frustrated trying to get to that. I didn't even know it existed until I talked with the Counselor Starr earlier today, and it didn't show me fun. When you did, communicate on that. Please.
Absolutely.
Good job on that report, though. Chief and team,
Yeah, it's a good team effort.
just want to say, like, there was so much information in that. So please pass on appreciation to everyone who worked on that.
Will do.
Great job.
That's good.
Obviously, we're gonna need another meeting, to look and discuss call data. So I would appreciate if we could look at, I know the month of November is Turkey Day. But what is everyone's life looking like, that third, the 19th, which is the third Wednesday? Or that 24th Monday?
19th looks amazing.
So we'll go. We'll go with the 19th, is that what? 6 p.m. Does that give you enough time, Chief, for your team?
I hope so. We should have most of the stuff back like within a couple days is what I was told, maybe early
So-
next week.
If we could get that out to us by the 12th, that would be. The 12th of November, that gives us
Sure.
like a week to look at it. I think that would be great. So, okay.
You bet.
And if it is too big to email, if it does get the printed copies and then just let us know when it's sent off. That would be great. Okay. With that, I will adjourn the meeting for the Keizer Police Beach Course. And it is 7:26. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
So good job.